Before a single European ship touched American shores, warlords, tacticians, and legends already walked these lands. They defended cities bigger than London. They commanded thousands, and they fought not for gold, but for honor, for ancestors, and for survival. Their names were never written in textbooks, but today we resurrect their legacies. These are 5 of the greatest Native American warriors before 1492. One, Tashunka, the shadow of the serpent. Long before the rise of coastal explorers, deep in the wild river valleys of the Pacific Northwest, a war chief known only as Tashunka, the shadow of the serpent, was feared across tribal territories. Tashunka led the Wayam Confederation, a cluster of tribes who controlled the rich salmon fisheries near what is now Solilo Falls. When northern raiders began stealing food and captives, Tashunka unified the fractured river clans into a single war alliance, an unheard-of act at the time. He was a master of ambush, using hidden trails and fog banks to trap enemies near the falls. One oral tale tells how he led 50 warriors in silence, paddling upstream at night, surrounding a much larger invading party before dawn, and leaving no survivors. Tashunka's warriors carried raven feathers into battle, and by the end of his reign, his name was spoken with awe, even among his enemies. But when peace returned, he vanished into the mists. Some say he was buried in the river itself. 2. Wacahnaye, she who strikes with fire. When most hear of Cahokia, they think of mounds, priests, and astronomy. But few know of Wacahnaye, a female military leader who defied gender roles and rose to command one of Cahokia's elite war bands during its golden age. She was born to a noble house but trained with warriors. At just 16, she defeated 2 challengers during a ritual combat tournament. By 20, she commanded the Red Clay Guard, an elite unit that protected the priest king. But when rebel chieftains in the outer provinces began rejecting Cahokia's authority, Wacahnaye was sent with 300 warriors to crush the insurrection. She didn't just defeat them, she recruited them. Her tactics blended military strength with diplomacy. In battle, she wore red paint across her face and carried a flaming spearhead lit with tree resin before charges, earning her the name, "She Who Strikes with Fire." Wacahnaye's victories kept Cahokia united for another generation, but when she died in battle near modern-day southern Illinois, her body was entombed under a ceremonial mound, marked with feathers, copper, and obsidian. A leader, a tactician, a legend. 3. Komehsa, the Buffalo King. The vast plains were once ruled not by cowboys, but by buffalo and horseless hunters. Among them rose Komehsa, the war chief of the Wichita ancestors, a man so strategic that enemies called him the buffalo who outthinks the wolves. He pioneered the use of decoy hunts, where scouts mimicked prey to draw rival hunting parties into ambushes. In one tale, his warriors painted themselves with mud, hiding among the herd before launching a surprise attack on a raiding party from the north. But Komehsa wasn't just brutal, he was political. He forged seasonal peace pacts with other tribes, ensuring that rival nations would rotate hunting grounds without war. This system lasted for over 70 years. When a deadly drought threatened his people, Komehsa led an exodus southward, discovering a forgotten river system that saved hundreds from starvation. He died at the age of 63, respected by both allies and enemies. To this day, some Wichita clans still say his name before hunts. 4. Nika'qah, the Jaguar's brother. In the days of the ancestral Puebloans, before the cliff cities were abandoned, warriors were more than fighters. They were protectors of the sacred. Nika'qah, whose name means brother of the Jaguar, was one of them. Born during a time of invasion from the north, Nika'qah was chosen by tribal elders to become the guardian of the Sun Dagger Shrine atop Fajada Butte, where solar alignments guided planting seasons. Trained in warfare, astronomy, and religious rites, he led defensive campaigns against hostile desert clans. But more than war, he embodied discipline and spirit. He once fasted for 40 days before leading a campaign to retake a sacred spring. According to oral tradition, he faced the enemy alone at dawn, wrapped in jaguar skins, forcing their retreat through sheer presence. When he died, he was buried with the last generation of sun priests. His tomb was sealed with stone etchings of eclipses and mountain lions. To his people, he was not just a warrior, but a bridge between the earth and sky. 5. Topoh'khan, the thunder who comes without rain. In the tangled waters of the Everglades, where crocodiles ruled and the sea whispered through the mangroves, one warrior stood unmatched. Topoh'khan, warlord of the Komehsa, was called the thunder who comes without rain, because when his war canoes appeared, it meant destruction without warning. He commanded a navy of dugout canoes, launching lightning raids on rival coastal peoples. He used tidal currents, moonlight, and even floating bait traps to lure invaders into fatal zones. According to surviving Spanish accounts, passed down through oral traditions, his fortress on Mound Key was impenetrable, guarded by canals, coral walls, and sentinels trained to signal with seashell horns. But what made Topoh'khan legendary wasn't brutality, it was resilience. When disease swept his coast, he organized medical outposts on shell mounds, directing supplies and healers across the archipelago. He united the Komehsa at a time when the Atlantic world was about to change forever. When Columbus sailed west in 1492, Topoh'khan had already been dead for 50 years. But the empire he helped forge stood waiting. These warriors walked this land before maps gave it names. Before metal, before conquest, they fought not for glory, but for the earth, the stars, the waters, and their people. Their legacies have been silenced, not by defeat, but by forgotten memory. Now is the time to remember. If you believe these stories deserve a voice, if you want to discover more untold legends from Native history, subscribe to Native Historian. Resurrect what was buried, and as always, stay curious.